With the introduction of the printing press and the growth of European guilds of papermakers, tarot design rapidly evolved to become a public phenomenon on a wider scale than amongst exclusive groups able to afford or else craft for themselves tarot playing card designs. The majority of figures and images from the medieval tarot are in evidence as watermarks in the handmade paper of the era. Over its history, changes, subtle and not so subtle, have insinuated themselves in the rendering of the design of every trump as the tarot deck gained exposure to different cultures throughout Europe. The High Priestess, depicted in nun's habit in the early Carrie Yale trumps, is, in many later decks of tarot, depicted as sitting enthroned before a veil supported by two pillars. In Germany, medieval sculptures of many similar illustrations were also employed in cathedral architecture to depict the Sibylline oracles of the classical Roman world. Conversely, the Rothschild tarot on display at the Louvre in Paris contains a historically early trump depicting the devil, more consonant with images otherwise found on early church engravings and gargoyle sculpture than with the feminized devil images of the mid-17th and 18th century tarot decks. Religious imagery, such as that depicted in the Last Judgment trump, was widely familiar to generations of European churchgoers. The scene of the Last Judgment was a universally common design of church ornament throughout Europe from the time of the building of the earliest stone cathedrals and churches. Classical mythology, the imagery of Neoplatonic art, which sought to illustrate the gods and goddesses of Greek and Roman myth, heretical folk beliefs, such as the rural legend of the female pope, whether the source be the Cathar priestesses of Albi and Toulouse, or merely the spiritual authority of Joan, Maid of Orleans, all of these have become at some time or another attached to the public perception of tarot designs throughout the ages. At any time in the long history of the tarot cards, whether the trumps were being employed for gaming purposes, fortune-telling, or merely as iconic art produced as wedding gifts, the tarot trumps were celebrated as enchanting talismanic items of artistic novelty and multi-layered cultural significance. From the obscurity of its origins in northern Italy, the game of tarocchi, or tarot trumps, was adopted enthusiastically by soldiers, merchants, and indeed the nobility, swiftly acquiring the same resonance of superstition as all other games of chance throughout the history of gaming. Even in present times, modern card games have their own legends and superstitions. Gaming and gambling are a combination that ensures that outcomes of specific events can make or break individual fortunes, and their amalgamation within such a powerful source of iconographic representation as the trumps of the tarot could not fail to inspire superstitious awe. However, the inclusion of specific symbols and figures such as Eros into many variants of the Lover's Trump, or the skeletal Grim Reaper, originally shown astride a white horse before becoming depicted with an archer's bow and then a scythe on variants of the Death card, could not fail to provoke a superstitious response of one kind or another amongst the late medieval populace, whose rich social commentary was fueled by storytelling traditions and the oral transmission of folk myth. The appearance of the image of death in the tarot trumps occurred sometime after the Duke of Milan stagecrafted the appearance of a giant 70-foot-tall statue of the Grim Reaper for the Lent Carnival of 1400. This was much to the great distaste of the good citizens of Milan, who had, in years previous to this event, found their numbers ravaged by the spread of the bubonic plague or Black Death. The northern Italian tradition of the Lent Carnival was the forerunner of today's famous Mardi Gras celebrations, complete with theatrical floats staged upon mobile chariots, which would make their procession around the city until the commencement of Lent, when 40 days of personal sacrifices and austerity would be encouraged and the time of carnival would end. The Carnival of Milan was especially appreciated by the common people, as it was extended by 4 days into the Lent period, known as the Ambrosian Carnival. This means there is no Ash Wednesday in the ecumenical calendar of the Diocese of Milan, and the festival ends on Sabato Grasso, or Fat Saturday, instead of Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday. New York Public Librarian Gertrude Moakley conducted extensive and valuable research into this yearly Milanese festive ritual, extending a theory demonstrating the procession to be a living celebration of the mid-14th century poetic epic by Petrarch, the founding father of humanism.